All right, so today we're going to solve combined inequalities. So instead of just having one inequality, guess what? How many inequalities do you think we're going to have? Two is right. We're going to combine them together. Last time we solved, right, one inequality, right? Now we're going to give you two, and we're going to combine them, okay? So before I do that, let's just do a little review. So we're going to graph this on a number line. What if I ask you to graph very simple inequality, x greater than -2? This is really straightforward. At -2, do we have open circle or closed circle? Open circle at -2 because it doesn't say greater than or equal to, right? Just greater than. And do we graph, do we shape to the right or left of -2? Right, very good. Easy enough? Right there. Okay? Can you do the same thing for then this here? X less than or equal to 3. Go ahead, I'll wait. It's really simple. Go ahead. But use the same number line, right? As one above. Does that make sense? Go ahead and graph it. Use the same exact number line as what we have up here, and then graph it. Okay, I hope you all got this, right? So I got a closed circle at 3, and then to the left of it, right? Everything to the left. Does that make sense? So you know how to graph these inequalities. Okay, so pretty straightforward. Okay. Now, why do I have closed dot at 3, not open? Jason. It says less than or equal to is correct. Okay, so any questions so far? Is this good? Now we're going to combine them together. Okay, so we're going to combine them together. Okay, let me move this up a little bit. There we go. So what if I ask you to graph both of them on the same graph? And I use the word and here. So I want you to graph x greater than -2 and x less than or equal to 3. By the way, when we say and, this means the solution has to be true for both. That's correct. So basically, it's basically where the two inequalities will overlap, right? Where they overlap is where, right? It'll be a solution for both. So let's do some scratch work here. I got this, right? Do you see how we get the same exact graph this way? And do you see where they overlap? Okay. Would 0 be a solution for both of these? Is 0 a solution to the first inequality and also the second inequality? Yes. Yeah. What about 1? Yes. What about 2? Yes. What about 3? Yes. 3 yes. Is yes, because 3 you included is closed circle, right, for the second one, and then of course it is part of the solution of the first inequality, isn't it not? What about -2? No. No. Why not? Why is -2 a solution?
It's an open
yeah, okay, how about yes?
Because it's an open circle and anything greater than -2.
Right. There's an open circle for -2 on the first inequality, right? It's not part of the solution for the first one, even though is it part of the solution for the second inequality? Yes, but it has to be a solution for both of them. Does that make sense? Yeah. What about -3? Is -3 a solution for both of them? Of course not. If it's not even a solution for the first one, right? Does that make sense? So what would this graph look like? Well, it's where basically they overlap. Go ahead, everybody try. I'll wait. See what you get. I'll wait for you. How many people got this graph right here? Okay. Whoops. There you go. How many people got this? Raise your hand. Does this make sense? Do you see why we have open circle at -2? Okay, it's because why? How about Bella? Why would I have open circle at -2? The other one at 3 we have closed circle. How come we have open circle at -2? This is important. Yeah, because of the first inequality, right? -2 is not part of a solution, right? Although the second one is. But for 3 we put a closed dot here. Why? Because Chris? Why do we have a closed dot at 3 here? Yeah, it says the second one is x is less than or equal to 3, so 3 is included, right? And of course 3 is included in the first inequality, correct? Do you see that? Any questions? So someone said, okay, we should write this as a sentence. You're right. To write this as a sentence, look at all the values of x that we're looking for. X is between which two numbers? -2 and 3, including 3. Because if you just say between -2 and 3, -2 and 3, those endpoints are not included. So since 3 is included, you have to say, you should really say the real number. When you say all, it means like everything. So you need to say the real numbers between -2 and 3, just like what we did last time. Does that make sense? So that's a way to write that as a sentence in a set notation. And then you have to say including 3. And there's a shortcut of writing this inequality. Okay. Whenever you get a graph that looks something like this, where you have an overlap and you know, it's in between two numbers, okay? There's a shortcut of writing. So the way we do that is, notice what we have here. You see how we have x first? I'm going to rewrite it this way, -2 less than x. Remember yesterday we said it's not a good idea to do that. But in this case, we do that, and you see how we have x's in the middle? We kind of combine them together, and you could write it this way. X, you see how x is in the between? -2 and 3. And then we include the 3, so it's less than or equal to 3 here. X here is greater than -2. So another way of writing this inequality, okay, is this. Okay. Same way. You could write it this way. It's a shortcut. So sometimes they give it to you this way, x greater than -2 and x less than or equal to 3, or sometimes they give it to you this way. Like kind of. By the way, how many inequalities does this represent? 2, right? Even though it looks like it's just 1, right? This represents 2. Which 2? Well, it represents this one here, x greater than -2 and x less than or equal to 3. Do you see how that works? So if you get a graph like this, it makes sense, right? Look, look at x. You know, x is between -2 and 3. That's how you write this, with all this less than symbols. Okay. All right. So let's look at then this here: x greater than -2 or x less than or equal to 3. It's the same exact inequalities now. Instead of and, now we have or. Do you think that's going to change our solution? You don't think it's going to change? Actually, it turns out it's going to change a lot. When you say or instead of and, or means, anybody have any idea what we mean by or? When we say or, and means where they overlap, right? It has to be solution for both of the inequalities. That's what we're looking for. Not quite. Or means we include the solution of the first one plus all the solution of the second one. It doesn't have to overlap, right? It's everything. You include everything. You solution of the first one plus the second one. So yeah, it's got to be solution for at least one of them. So we had the graph like this, right, before? Yeah. What do you think then the solution of this inequality will be when we combine them with or? Go ahead, everybody think about it and graph. I'll wait for you. And of course, talk to your team, see what you guys think, okay? So or means we want to include a solution of both of them all together, not just where they overlap, right? Everything, we want to include everything. So what would the solution look like? Go ahead, everybody think with your team. I'll wait. So, how many people think they have the right answer? Okay, what do you think, Libby? All real numbers. How many people agree with Libby? Okay, how many people say, not quite, I have something else? Anybody have different?
Not everyone voted.
That's true, but she's right. It's all real numbers. Did anybody put down, like, except -2 or something like that because there's a open circle at -2?
Ooh, no.
Yeah, because, yeah, even though on the first inequality does not include -2, well, the second inequality does. So we gotta combine, like I said, or means we have to combine everything together, right? So we, you know, it's basically like you just combine all the answers together, and that's, and you get all real numbers. So you see how it makes a big difference when you have or and in the middle, right? Or means you combine everything, and means just where they overlap. Do you guys understand how to combine inequalities? So that word in the middle is really important, right? Okay. All right, let's move on to the next one. So I even wrote this down here. It means include both solutions, right? That's what we mean by this, okay? All right. All right, so why don't you, let's do an example 1. Here's a very simple inequalities. We're going to combine them with or. So we got x less than -2 or x greater than 3. Can you guys graph this combined inequality? What would the solution of this combined inequality be? Go ahead, everybody try. I'll wait. So how many people graph? First of all, oh well, this really doesn't. You don't really need scratch work, right? Yep. This is it. This is the solution, right? This is how you graph. This is it, right? Because or means you include the solution of the first one plus the second inequality, correct? So how would you write this, by the way, as a sentence? Yes.
Real numbers except between -2 and 3.
Oh, I guess you could say it that way. So the real numbers, all real numbers except real numbers between -2 and 3. Yeah. Or I could say something like just, you know, using the word or. All real numbers. Actually, I should say the real numbers. The real numbers. Oops. The real numbers between, less than -2 or greater than 3. So Jason, this is actually.
Yeah, that was better.
Yeah, what you said is correct, but this is the normal way of saying it. This is what we used to. So we just say the real numbers less than -2 or greater than 3. Is that okay? All right, let's do example 2 now. So number 2, it's the same exact one except instead of or we have and. Do we have to do a scratch work on this one?
Yeah.
Not quite, because you already have the graph on the top, right? It's the same exact graph, right? It's just the word is and now. Anyway, go ahead, everybody try. I'll wait. See what you get. All right, so who thinks they have the right answer? How about, call somebody random here. How about, Michael, what'd you get?
I got no solution.
No solutions. How many people agree with Michael? Oh, okay, good. Almost all of you. Anybody have a different answer? Because Michael is right. He's correct. And of course, to grab no solution, you put nothing on a number line like this, right? Does that make sense?
You have to graph it.
Yeah, if they ask you to graph, how do you grab no solution? You just grab the number line without anything on it, right? There you go. And you write no solution. Okay? So, does that make sense? Because, you know, there's no overlap, right? A number cannot be less than -2 and at the same time greater than 3. Is that even possible?
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, it's not possible. Well, in this case, it is not. So therefore, there is no solution. Does that make sense? You guys get that? Right. Okay, let's move on to the next one. Okay, go ahead and try example 3. It says x greater than -2 or greater than 3. This time we have or in the middle. Okay, so you know what it means. Go ahead, everybody try. Graph it and tell me what the solution is. Okay. Write it out as a sentence. Okay. Oh wait. Go ahead, everybody try. Let's see who's got this one. How about Mimi? What does your graph look like? Can you tell us? Yeah, tell me as a sentence. What would it be? The real numbers?
It's the.
You're not sure?
Yeah.
Okay, first of all, did you get this graph, Mimi? So here's my scratch work, right? You get x greater than -2, right? And then it's open circle. X greater than 3, so there's an open circle at 3. Now, when we say or, what do we mean by or?
Yep. Both of them.
Yeah, we want the solution of both of them all together. So what would that look like? The real numbers that are?
Isn't this
Okay.
the same exact one that was
Can you just say
greater than -2?
Greater than -2. How many people agree with Mimi? How many people say greater? How many people say greater than 3?
And that. No, that just.
So would it be greater than 3? That would be overlap. Are we looking for overlap? No, we're just looking for all the solutions together. So Mimi is correct. It is this graph, the real numbers greater than -2. Now, do we need to say not including -2 or things like that? No, if you just say greater than -2, -2 isn't included anyway. If you want to include it, then you have to say it. Does that make sense? So you're right. Does that make sense? So the word or, right, means we have to combine both of these inequalities, right? Solutions of the inequalities together. So that's your solution. Any questions? Okay. Good. All right. So try example 4. It's the same exact one except you have and there, and instead of just greater than 3, we have x greater than or equal to 3. Okay. Go ahead and see what you get on this example 4. Tell me the solution to this to the inequalities. Okay. Oh wait. By the way, do we have to draw this inequality again? Well, it's the same as before, isn't it? So, but what does and mean here, Brandon? When we say and, we're looking for solutions that are true for
Both of them.
both of them. So when we graph, here's our scratch work again. By the way, do you think it's a good idea to like not extend this arrow, like maybe extend it like up to here only? I don't think that's a good idea. You need to extend it as long as where the other one is, so that you could see where they overlap, because that's what you're looking for. Isn't that right? Isn't that right? So, what do you think our solution for this combined inequality is? Aiden, what do you think?
Greater than all numbers. The number's greater than 3.
The real number is greater than 3. Now, if you say greater than 3, is 3 included?
Yes.
No, if you say greater than 3, 3 is not.
Wait.
So we have to say,
And
All-
the real number's
Uh-huh.
greater than the 3, including 3.
that's exactly what you get. So isn't this the graph we get here? Whoops. And then you have to include that 3. Right, guys? Does this make sense? Any questions? Do you see why we need to include 3? Because 3 is solution to the second one, of course, of this first one also. Okay? Does that make sense? So please remember to include 3, because as you can see, that's where they're going to overlap, right? At 3, you have the solution of the second one, also solution of this. Again, don't, like I saw some of you do this. Guys, is this good enough? Is that good? No, you don't want to do that because if you do that, then you don't see the overlap, right? So you want to extend this long enough so you see the overlap there. You guys get that? Okay. Because and means where they overlap, right? It's got to be solution for both of them. Okay. What if I ask you to do this one? Graph -3 less than or equal to x minus 2 less than 4. And by the way, how many inequalities does this represent? Who remembers? It represents 2. Do you guys remember this was one of the shortcut? Now, what is one of the inequality? Let me show you a nice way to figure it out. One of the inequality that this is showing you is you just hide the other one. Is that one? You see the first inequality?
Yes.
That one, and what's the other one? Well, you hide the other part. It's that one. Those are the 2 inequalities that it's showing. This is a shortcut, okay? By writing those 2. But here's the problem though. We don't know whether this is and or, right? So how do we know what this inequality, how this inequality is combined? Okay, I want you to discuss with your group. Do you see what my question is? How do you know whether or not we should combine them with and or for this one? Go ahead, everybody think about it. What do you think? Do you guys remember this? We did this from the very beginning. Remember we had x greater than -2 and x less than 3? Remember this was a shortcut of what? We got this graph and so on. Remember we said this was a shortcut of? We could write this as a shortcut as a x between -2 and 3 like this. You guys remember? So whenever you have something like this, what word goes in the middle? And. So this shortcut only works for and. It doesn't work for or. Does that make sense? So if you don't see the word and you see the shortcut, you know that it represents 2 inequality with which word in the middle? And. Does that make sense? Okay, please remember that because you're going to see that on your homework tonight. Okay? So as you can see this, example 5, it's really this, isn't it? -3, right? Less than or equal to x minus 2 and x minus 2 less than 4. So whenever you see this shortcut, right, it represents 2 inequality with and in the middle. Does that make sense? The shortcut with 2 less than signs. So do we now know how to solve this combined inequality with and? Yes, it's the same exact kind of thing that we've been doing so far, right? Yes? Go ahead, everybody try. Show me the graph and write down the solution as a sentence, okay? So I hope you all, how did you get rid of the -2 on the left side? You add it together. So did you all get x greater than -2 by adding both sides by 2?
Yeah.
Well, what do we do on the other one? The same thing. You just add 2 and then, okay, you get 2 inequalities like this. So we have and. What does and mean again? It's where they overlap because it's got to be solution for both. How many people got this graph here?
Yes.
Okay. The x is between -1 and 6, including -1. Very good. Now, instead of writing it this way, with 2 inequalities, could we use the shortcut again if you wanted to? How would you write this shortcut? Using, you know, how they gave us this way? How would you write this as a shortcut? Michael?
I put -1 is less than or equal to x, which is less than 6.
Yeah, and less than 6. So this is, yeah, couldn't we write it this way? You see x is between -1 and 6, right? So you put -1 on the left, 6 on the right. And because we include -1, it has to be less than or equal to, and then put the x in the middle. Remember, that's a shortcut, another way of writing it. So actually the way to read this is x is greater than or equal to -1 and x is less than 6. That's how you read it. Because it's a shortcut of those 2 inequalities with and in the middle. Does that make sense? So you could write it this way, okay? So you should write it this way. The real numbers between -1 and 6, including -6. Wouldn't that be what you would write, right? Here's your answer in the sentence, okay? Now let's do one last one here. Here we go. Here's some facts. Before we do example 6, I need to tell you. Here's some facts that you should be aware of because you need this for your homework. The inequalities with and is called the inequalities with and is called conjunction. Okay. So the inequalities with and is called conjunction, and where you have inequality with or are called disjunction. Oops. Yeah. So that's just, you need to know that. Hold on. So the inequalities with and are called conjunctions and or are called disjunctions. So just remember conjunction, whenever you have and, right, for these inequalities, that's what's called conjunctions. Okay, and then if you have or, called disjunction. Why do we need to know this? Because sometimes on your homework, they will give you two inequalities without any words, but they will say something like this. Look at example 6. Graph the disjunction of, thank you, graph the disjunction of negative 5d less than or equal to 3 minus 2d, and then d plus 2 greater than 3d minus 2. Now, there's no word in between, so if they just say disjunction, if you didn't know this, you wouldn't know which word to use. But now we know. Which one do we need to use? Or. Does that make sense? Yes? Okay, so sometimes they could give it to you this way, so you have to know disjunction means or, conjunction means and. Go ahead, everybody try. I'll wait. Everybody go ahead and tell me what the solution for this combination of inequalities is. Okay, go ahead, everybody try. Okay, so do you see how this combined inequality really has the word or in the middle, right? So it should be like this, right? You see how that works out? Okay, go ahead, everybody finish it up. I'll wait. All right, so what do we do with the first inequality here on the left side? We're going to what? Gather the d's together, right? So did you just add both sides by d? And then I subtracted both sides by 3, right? And then you get 2 less than or equal to negative d. Now, when you divide by negative 1, what happens to the inequality symbol? Did you all remember to reverse? Okay, don't forget. So you reverse this. Okay, so you get d less than or equal to negative 2. On the right side, do the same thing. Add 2 to both sides. Divide this time, and then add 2. Oh, right. I subtracted d, and then add 2. And then you get d less than 2. How many people got d less than or equal to negative 2 or d less than 2? Does this make sense? How many people forgot to reverse the inequality symbol when you divide by negative 1? No one did? Okay. Don't forget, whenever you divide or multiply both sides by negative, the inequality reverses. Right, guys? Do you see how you reverse here? You divide by negative 1. Okay, so you should have gotten this graph by the scratch work. So somebody tell me the solution then. What is the solution of this disjunction going to be? How about, let me pick somebody at random. How about Song?
It's real number less than negative 2.
Real numbers less than negative 2.
Yeah.
Okay, how many people said real number less than negative 2? Raise your hand. Okay, remember this is or, disjunction. Or means you gotta include the solution of the first inequality plus solution of all the second inequality, right? What you told me is really a overlap. We're not looking for the overlap, are we? And even if it was overlap, you would include negative 2, right? So do you want to tell me the answer again? What should be the answer? Or means you have to include both of them together. So the real numbers, that are what? Look at the graph. If I were to include the first one plus the other one, what would be your solution? Yeah, it would be less than 2. Isn't that the solution, guys? Right? You got it. So what you told me is where they overlap. Or means, right? You have the solution of both of them together. Why is there open circle at 2, class? Yeah, the first inequality, right? Of course, does not include 2. The other one doesn't either, right? The second one is less than 2, right? It doesn't say less than or equal to 2. If it said less than or equal to 2, would you include 2? Guys, if it said this, would you include 2? Yes, it would. Yes, you would, right? Does this make sense? Any questions? Can you do something like this for your homework tonight? You sure? Okay, good.